Hello guys, welcome back to the Beastie Room. Now, you would have remembered a little while ago, some weeks back now, we picked up a large OBT from Portsmouth Tarantulas, and we got that at the Central London show. And you'd have remembered we weren't 100% sure whether it was female. Everything was pointing to it being female, but we couldn't quite see the epigastric furrow, even though it was a large spider, which really threw us. We just weren't sure, and even at the show they had a look and no one could be 100% sure. So we thought we'd take a chance, and we brought her home. Now, we did manage to find her up on the glass, and it looked like her epigastric furrow was distended a little bit. So we thought, right, we've got a female. Now we got an old male that's been kicking around here. He's paired two other females, one of which you actually saw the egg sac being removed. Well, you saw the youngsters being removed because they hatched out inside the enclosure. So he's been a busy boy, but this also means he's quite an old guy as well. He's really cracking on a bit. Now, in terms of him being old, he doesn't actually look old, which is quite surprising as well. He looked like a good, fit, strong spider, but he is in fact some months old. So anyway, we tried him out and we give him a go. So stay around, have a look at this. This was quite an epic pairing. I'll see you soon. Well, here we are introducing our male OBT. Now, generally speaking, male OBTs can be rather skittish, and this guy has been in the past. He has actually bred with two separate females, and we have had an egg sac produced by one of those. And you would have seen recently we actually done a video where we pulled an egg sac, so it gives you an idea of the age of this male. He's not a spring chicken. Now we put him in with this, our large female. And this is the one that we got from the Central show in London from Portsmouth Tarantulas, and we wasn't 100% sure whether it was actually female, although everything points to it being female. But when we check out the epigastric furrow on her, it was very difficult to tell. It wasn't obvious, and which was quite unusual. So we took a chance. And we actually saw her out and about on the glass, and her epigastric furrow was actually quite extended, which is the first time that we've physically seen it. And so we thought, right, we've got this old male here, why not give him another try and see what happens? Because obviously we've got no molt history with this female, so there's a possibility she could molt out before she produces a sac. And as you well know, we normally try and get a molt from our females before we attempt any breeding, but sometimes it's not always possible. Now, an interesting thing there, she's actually responded to him, and you can see there that he's giving the shakes. They're very good. The OBTs, they send a lot of vibration through whatever they're standing on, and they're quite forceful with it. And she's responding to that. You can see he's shaking like a good one. She's responding, she's also shaking, and she's doing a little bit of tapping and drumming. Here she comes. It was quite interesting that she was actually coming out rear end first to begin with, and then she's turned around. And as you can see there, she's tapping back. Now we find generally with the females, they do a little bit less of the shaking than the males. They're much more into drumming. Our males do both. Now you notice there, as soon as he felt that she was there, he came straight in, made contact straight away. He is a very, very brave male OBT, this one. He doesn't muck about, which is just as well when you consider the size of her. She's a very large spider, but as you can also see, he is a pretty big male. And you can see how responsive she is. She's very, very keen. And he's the same. Look at him. I mean, these two are really a match made in heaven. Now we've come down to a different angle now. This is back on our phone. You notice how the difference in the colour
when we get it on the iPhone, it really does pick up the colour of them. They are absolutely stunning. And we're trying to here, we're just getting a different angle just to see if we can see a little bit more. You'll notice also that when he first made his introduction, he spun round. He wanted that higher ground, which many of our males really prefer. They all like to have a little bit of higher ground, make it a little bit easier for escape. Colouring on these is just awesome. You see there he's constantly shaking. And we're going back to the other angle now. And he's moved up a little bit. Now one of the things was we had to edit this footage quite a bit because this went on for around about 4 hours. This whole courtship. It was a very, very long time. For an OBT, most of our OBTs pair up within 20 minutes, half an hour. It's normally all done. These guys mucked around for a good 4 hours. It was a very, very long, drawn out courtship. And you can see there where he sort of gets her going and he stops for a rest. As soon as he stops, she starts responding back. She's egging him on. Now, one nice thing we saw up to this point, we've seen no aggression from our female. She's been very, very laid back, very willing. Now, at this point here, we literally were in this position now for over an hour. We were backwards and forwards like this. And it was just with all the same thing. She's actually been pushed back by the male. And he's just not prepared to get in underneath there. And this is because although he's higher than her, he's flat to that piece of cork bark. And that's quite a dangerous place for him to be. He doesn't want to be any closer than necessary. You see how she's almost in a trance there? She's woken up again. She's like, hey up, are you still there? See how he's not responding at all? Look at that. He's literally just sat there. Now, there you go. As she starts to come up, you see he starts the vibration again. He starts to shaking. I think he's just letting her know he's not lost interest. He's just having a breather. It's almost like the vibration side of it is he's giving that little tiny piece, that reassurance that he's there for the purpose. Now on this angle now, we were hoping to catch an insemination because it looks so close. But as you can see, he's not reaching down far enough. He is literally too high up. And again, she's very, very relaxed. Now you'll notice there that even when our male is taking a breather, he doesn't lose contact with our female. There will be a foot touching somewhere. Look at that, she's come up. She's talked him into it again. He's now having another attempt. Now you would think that this would be an absolutely ideal situation for our male. But he's still not entirely happy. Now for an old male, he's in very, very good condition. He has been feeding, and we've seen him drink as well. And this is something that some of our males, not many, but occasionally we get a male that refuses food and water, and they will literally just pine away, even when they're being bred. Now generally speaking, they start off like this, and then normally once we've paired them, that will often encourage them to actually take on water. They'll drink then. But very occasionally we get the odd one that just don't want to know. Now, as you can see now, we've actually moved from the side of the bark and we're now on top of the tank. And it's important that we allow them the freedom to do this. We give them the space. These are on our desk. And it doesn't matter if they walk around on the top of the enclosure or even if they go down the outside of the glass. It's not a problem. They're not going anywhere. They have got far bigger things on their mind than running around the beastie room. So we allow them the freedom to do whatever they need to do. And sometimes when they get up to the enclosure like this, our males, it gives them a little bit of courage because they can literally go in any direction. Now these spiders with this pairing was another good lesson in always making sure that you allow plenty of time to pair your spiders. You know, it is not worth pairing your spiders if you sit there and think to yourself, right, I've got 20 minutes, let's bung them together and see what happens. This is when mistakes happen. This is when males get killed. You know, everything's a rush. It's important that you allow time. When we breed here in the beastie room, we would normally save our pairings to a day where I have nothing else planned and I can literally just sit down in the beastie room and I can get on with whatever needs to be done. Now, some days that means that we might go through half a dozen, 8 or 10 different pairings and they all be good. Another time we might only do 1 or 2 pairings because like these guys, they might take 4 or 5 hours. So always allow plenty of time. Now you can see there our female, once she gets up on that ledge, she's quite cumbersome. She's not got the agility that our male has. You notice he's sort of really dominating the situation now. She's still being very receptive. This is not a particularly good place for him to try and inseminate with our female. He's very keen though. It's almost like he likes to see her at a bit of a disadvantage. It gives him an advantage. Notice how he's holding his pedipalps up really high. This is also a sign that he's not entirely happy with the situation. When they're holding them up really high like that, I've found that they've normally got a little bit of nervousness around with the female. She might be giving slightly different signals to him. And he's holding them pedipalps up well out of the way. He doesn't want them damaged. As you can see now, the whole thing's changed. She's actually above him. He's now turning. He's trying to get that upper ground again. You notice contact has never stopped. He is always touching her in one way or another. Now you can also see there, you can see the epigastric furrow on our female. It's quite prominent. This is where we can see that she's actually being very receptive. She's ready to pair. It's just getting our male in the right space. And you can see also there clearly that our female's got a good sized abdomen. She's had a couple of really good meals since she's been with us. And this has plumped her up quite considerably. And she's built a lovely home behind that piece of cork bark. Now you'll have remembered when we done the rehousing of this female, we gave her options to actually make her home behind that piece of cork bark in more of an arboreal type situation. And we also gave her options where she could have made her home on the floor in a terrestrial style. And as with quite often happens with our OBTs, she chose the arboreal side of things. Now this is something that has been criticised in the past. You know, people say that the OBT is not an arboreal spider, but they aren't a strictly terrestrial spider either. And given the choice, they will often actually nest up off the ground. This is what we've found here. The vast majority of the time, they will always go for the higher option. That's because in the wild state, they would actually web up in the very, very lower pieces of the bushes. So they might only literally be 6 inches, a foot, maybe 18 inches off the floor, but that is where they'll choose to be. Which doesn't make them a strictly terrestrial or arboreal spider. They will choose whatever suits them best. Now, as we can see now, we've changed position really well. Our male has now got the better ground. And you can see there, he's also looking a little bit more confident. And one of the things is here is our female would have a job to actually grab a hold of him in this position, because she would need to let go of the enclosure that she's hanging on at the moment. She is literally hanging. He's backing off again. Notice the pedipalps, they're quite low, which shows that he's reasonably relaxed at the minute. And she's giving good signs as well. You notice they're very, very low. So this is another sign that we're looking for, and we can see that our spiders are still relatively happy. If we were to see him consistently holding them high, backing off, we would be there ready, because it's a sign that maybe our female is not 100% in the game. These are all little things that we need to look for, little characteristics in their posture, so we can see what's going on. Now you can see he's getting very excited. Look at he's literally vibrating like a mad thing there. So he's actually getting to the point now, his confidence is building. You see how he's pushing her down again. He's using them 2 front legs to force her back. There's only so far back she can go, because she is literally holding on to the edge of the enclosure. But you can see the tempo has really increased. He's got the dominant position again. You see he's vibrating constantly now. Our female is very relaxed. She's almost falling backwards. There you go. There we have insemination. You can see she is literally hanging on by 2 legs. And he's doing quite a good job as well. But we have insemination there. Quite a drawn out one. Now here we are. We come down onto the side, and you can clearly see the emboli working away on that pedipalp. You can see the lower one is actually fixed. He is penetrating the female, and the upper one is literally just sitting there waiting. And what he will do, he will rotate them. There you go. You see he's let go with that one, and he's come down with the second one now. You see he's feeling for the epigastric furrow. He's gone back in with the original. Excellent little bit of footage there. We can see so much of what's going on. And you can see now our female is literally holding on by 2 feet. She is dangling in midair. Now she's brought her legs back up now. You see that? This is a time where our male is a little bit unsure. Not so sure what's going to happen now. He's still actually inseminating. Look at that. That pedipalp is still connected to our female. Difficult to see on that little bit of glass there, a little bit dirty. Clearly see the emboli there. So his left hand pedipalp is actually inseminating as we speak. And the right hand one is the one that you can clearly see. You see how he's rocking that emboli from side to side? Now we're back up to the original camera angle. She is almost hanging there. Now you can see there, she literally just felt like she was about to let go, and she's come round. You notice how he's backed off? He's maintained contact though. Very interesting. Look at that. Now look, he's almost dominating her. This is something we haven't seen before with our OBTs. Normally, once our male has finished penetrating the female, he's finished inseminating, normally they like to get out of there pretty quick. This guy has maintained contact. Very interesting. Now he's cleaning his pedipalps. Look at that. That's always a good sign that they've actually been used. Yep, he's cleaned both of them. And you see how relaxed he is. He's just letting them hang there. This is one very calm spider. Very unusual that he's stayed with her. I thought he would have gone. Now at this point, everything has been done that needs to be done. So it's time to start thinking about how we're going to get him out in a nice, safe manner. So normally you will always hear me say, we keep an eye on the female. The female is the one that we need to secure generally. She is actually in the mouth of her burrow. So when the disturbance comes along, she is going to shoot back down into that burrow if needs be. And we are now going to try and lift our male. You notice we come in very, very gently. We just stroke his leg. We let him know that we're here. We're now going to come up underneath the front leg. You see that? We're just lifting him up, letting him use his back legs as purchase. There you go. We just gently take him out of the situation. Now we're going to use the lid for the tub to basically secure him. And there you go. Our female has ducked down. She saw the lid coming. Our male is in his box, nice and safe. That is often the most dangerous part. Fantastic job.
Well, what did you think to that? There was some lovely footage there, some really, really nice footage. Now, one of the things that surprised us with this one was, generally speaking, our OBTs normally get it on within 20 minutes, half an hour. They're done and dusted. Really cool. These guys went on for well over 4 hours. So you would have seen there, we've had to edit it quite a bit to try and make it into a condensed video. He took his time. Although he was quite forceful with what he was doing, they just seemed to take their time to actually get it really together. But you would have seen at the end of the video how the tempo really picked up, and then all of a sudden, bang, we were away and it was all going good. Now, another interesting thing that we saw there at the end was how he hung around. We've never had an OBT behave like that before. Normally, our males, you see them back off and then bang, they're gone. They're out like a shot. They really don't hang around. This guy actually carried on and dominated our female. He came over the top of her. He even had the cheek to sit and clean his pedipalps while he was on top of her. So, yeah, very unusual behaviour. We learn something every time we pair something. We see something different all the time. And we could also see how his confidence was increasing and then waning and then increasing as the pairing went on. And you can often tell this by the way he holds his pedipalps. If he's holding them up really, really high, he's not particularly happy. He's a little bit worried about what she's up to. So we keep an eye on that sort of thing, and it gives us just an insight as to what's going on, and tells us whether we need to be a little bit more proactive, a little bit on the edge of where we are. You'd also see on there that we allow them the full access of the enclosure. And you see that they both actually came out of the enclosure. They walked around on the glass on the outside. Then they were back on the inside. We allow them to do whatever it is they need to do to get that situation done and dusted. Very important to give your spiders plenty of room and also plenty of time. You know, we don't pair anything in the spider room unless we've got all day. That's the sort of golden rule in the beastie room. We don't generally do any pairings unless we've got nothing else planned. Then we sit down and we pair our spiders. This means that we can normally set aside a day to do our pairings, and it means that sometimes we might get 6 or 8 pairings in a day without any problems whatsoever. Another day we might put 1 pair of spiders together and they take all day about it. Yep, the brachypelmas are a classic. Very, very slow. Well, in our instance, that's what we've found. They've been very, very slow. So, yeah, always allow plenty of time. Right. that was a really, really cool pairing. We had some great footage. See some really nice insemination footage there near the end with our, when we went down on the iPhone and we could see through the glass. We saw that perfect insemination. And you notice with the Imboli, he literally just moves it side to side like that. Very, very gentle. Really, really cool stuff. That being said, it's very interesting to see that we've had other males. They run in, stabbed them, run out. So we've got two different styles of pairing going on there. There's so much to learn. Really, really exciting. Now, we'll have a little recap now as well, because you would have remembered some weeks back, we pulled the Sabar Blue egg sac, and we also pulled the Avic egg sac. So let's have a look at these. We've had many of you say to us, we want to be kept up to date with how they're progressing. Now this is the Avic, and we ended up with 83 pulled out of there. And as you can see now, these guys are quite immobile. They're not doing a lot, but you see they've changed colour. They've all gone very black. Now, what's happening now is they go really, really black like this just prior to the molting. And this is what's happening now. These are imminent. Within the next day or two, these will all pop and they'll molt out. So they're looking really, really cool. Very, very dark, very lethargic. This is what they do. They don't move around much at all. So we're pleased with those. They're looking really nice. And then we got our Sabar Blues, which we pulled a little bit earlier. And out of the Sabar Blue egg sac, we had 104. And these two have literally just turning colour now. The last time you saw them, they were like a light brown. You notice now the legs have gone really, really black. But we're waiting now for the abdomens to go black as well. So when they go fully black, like we've just seen with the Avic, these will become a little bit more immobile. At the moment, you notice, look, they're quite mobile. They're on the move. So these are really looking superb at the moment. You notice how they're laying down web and everything else, even as nymphs. They lay down all this web. This is really thick web. Absolutely amazing. So they're looking very, very nice. It's always nice to see our young nymphs literally just watching them grow from one stage to the next. Very, very exciting. Now, we often get asked with our nymphs, what are we feeding them? Well, the honest answer is we don't feed them at all. These nymphs are not fed anything at all. And that's because, generally speaking, nymphs don't tend to eat. Now, there has been cases in the past where nymphs have eaten one another, which is quite unusual. And it has been documented, but generally speaking, we don't tend to get that in our nursery pots. We don't really see that. But it has been documented in the past. But generally, we don't feed them anything. We don't give them anything at all until they molt out. And when they molt out into proper little slings, so they're furry little spiders, that's when we separate them and then we start to feed them. But we will let you know when that happens, because we're going to keep following these in the videos. And you'll see them when they actually turn into proper little slings. And that's when we'll tell you we'll start feeding them. Right. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. Nice little catch up on the nymphs. A wonderful video on the OBT. Absolutely stunning spiders. And for a spider that's given such a reputation, you see just how gentle they really are. Beautiful, beautiful spiders. Right then. I hope you enjoyed that. And don't forget, be calm, be gentle, and love your spider. And I will see you soon, guys.